Hey everybody, welcome back to Kicking It in the Second Half. KISH YZ, I am D, and we're here with episode 37, I believe. And what I'm going to call this episode, we're going to call this episode You Get What You Get. And that's kind of how I feel about doing this episode right now at the moment. But I want to start off with the big three because I was having conversations. I work with different people as far as the big three. Lakers big three versus the Nets big three, and kind of how I've analyzed them in the past and kind of what they're doing now. As far as, you know, people have heard me talk about, let's start with the Nets, how I said with the Nets, in my opinion, what I feel like would be a great situation or great system as far as running their big three last year. This year, obviously it's not happening with Kyrie, but in a sense of where I thought or thinking going forward, it would be best during the game, outside of the first quarter and the fourth quarter, to run sets of two with the big three, where you have Harden and Durant, or you have Harden and Kyrie, or Kyrie and Durant, and you kind of have that in a rotation because it would allow the two that are on the court to kind of be more free with their play style and do what they normally do, because it's easier to be out there. And if you're one of the big three there and you have just one of the other big three on the court, you know, if you're Durant, it's easier to be like, okay, I'll defer to Harden for this play and then I'm going to get my shot, versus picking and choosing between the other two at the same time. Like, well, I did Kyrie last time, maybe I should get Harden. You know, that little mental lapse of, am I being too selfish, or do I just go for mine? They can figure it out later. Am I hurting their feelings? Like, that's what I'm referring to as far as why that rotation, in my opinion, would help to sustain the Nets as far as scoring and contributing as a big three. That's kind of how I would have it, because there's not a lot of depth there. But you consider, like, if you take out Durant in that situation and Harden's already out there, and then you plug in Kyrie, now their dynamic should work the same way. So you keep doing that between the second and third quarters, especially to open up the second half. And then the fourth quarter, you know, maybe the last 8 minutes, depending on how the score is looking. But when it gets to the last 8 minutes of that quarter, then you have all three of them on the court. Because, you know, it gets towards the game. If it's a close game, somebody's got to take the last shot or the last few shots. So, you know, you kind of will. Well, this sucks because I don't know where I was at. My camera died. I had to change out the battery. I should have checked before I started this other podcast. So I think I was talking about Kyrie Irving, and I don't know to what magnitude I was talking about Kyrie. I know I was talking about the big three, kind of swapping out the two players in sets of two, you know, between pairs, and then plugging them in the fourth quarter. So as far as that dynamic, and I was being asked, why isn't that working now? The reason why it's not working now is because Kyrie Irving is not playing, obviously. So that's the obvious answer to my theory of why it would have worked before. You don't have anybody swapping or rotating out. You have Harden and Durant, and we see them win games. That's what I was mentioning or meaning before, is that they can win games as pairs. So you don't have to have all three of them playing at the same time during the game, but you need all three of them for each game because of swapping in and out. You know, you imagine if Kevin Durant, you know, on tougher games, he didn't get tired as much, or, you know, if he had relief in scoring while he was on the bench. Like, you know, sometimes these superstar players, they go down or they're sitting down just to take a break. You know, the team is greatly impacted in a negative way because they're not on the floor. So that's what I'm saying. If you had all three guys in a rotation of two, then that would certainly help the cause, and it'd be even harder to beat. So that's my take on the big three, and why, you know, obviously the Brooklyn Nets situation isn't the best situation. Like I said, that doesn't mean they're not winning games. They are winning games. They're just not at peak efficiency for obvious reasons. So moving on to the big three of the Lakers, what's going on with that one? It's the opposite, in my opinion. You need all three of these guys to be on the court at the same time, because you need to get a feel for how they're going to play along each other when it comes to the postseason and whatnot. You need LeBron on the court. You need AD on the court. You need Russ to figure out how he fits in with this group of guys. And you're not going to get that if LeBron's hurt or if AD gets hurt or something like that, like we saw last year when they added Drummond to the system and they were trying to acclimate him to the Lakers system and then reacclimate him to the Lakers system when they had AD and LeBron back healthy towards the end of the regular season going into the postseason. There is just a different dynamic because you have no sense of feel of how to play the game around these other two guys. So for the Lakers, more time on the court is key. And then obviously it's going to take patience, but like LeBron said, it takes it takes time to get these things worked out, but also you have to have some sense of urgency as far as, figuring it out. You have X amount of games left in the season, but you also have to be making strides in that direction of coming together, and each game should be its own learning game. You can't go backwards. You have to go forwards and realize your mistakes and be better at trying to correct those mistakes into great or better habits. So there's two different dynamics going on with each respective team's big three because of their genetic makeup of players and how they play the game. The Nets' big three are, very much isolation players. They work really, really great with isolation moves, where the Lakers, you have some guys who can do isolation and LeBron and AD, but they work best as a dynamic. LeBron James works best as a player who can get his shot off but also make players for guys, especially on the perimeter when he drives and kicks out. Same thing with Russell Westbrook. We don't want to really see him do a lot of isolation games because sometimes that leads to inefficient games. We like to see him drive and kick and contribute in other ways. Anthony Davis, the same way. His isolation game is great, but when he crashes the boards and he plays at the 5 position, then that's when we see him at his full peak potential most of the time, especially when he has a playmaking guard like Russ with him or LeBron with him or Rondo with him. That helps to make his game even easier. So two different dynamics there. Just wanted to clear that out in case other people were wondering my takes as far as why the big three and the Lakers aren't working and why the dynamic of KD and Harden isn't necessarily the key to their success for the rest of the season. So let's move on for that. Let's also hit up Lonzo Ball. So once again, you get what you get. The Bulls are getting what they got. They had a heck of an offseason, and all these pieces that they put on the team with Alex Caruso coming off the bench. His defense is crazy. DeMar DeRozan with his scoring numbers are still there, surprisingly, playing alongside Zach LaVine. And obviously Vucevic, looking like he's playing his first full year with Chicago after being traded to Chicago from last year's trade deadline. And obviously you have Zach LaVine, who's just been there for several NBA seasons now. But I wanted to focus on Lonzo Ball because I feel like, bold prediction here, that Lonzo Ball is about to make his first All-Star appearance. This is the Lonzo Ball that I was wanting to see earlier in his career. And you hear his dad talk so much hype about him as far as, he was going to be better than Steph Curry, blah, blah, blah. I just kind of saw through that, but I did see the potential in his playmaking ability and how he likes to get the ball up the court fast, minimal dribbles as far as fast breaks. Also, with the way he plays defense, his defense is underrated at times, in my opinion, in the past. But we're seeing it this year because of the Chicago Bulls defense as a team, as a whole. I love what they got here with Lonzo Ball and how they plugged him in the role that best fits his game. Like, this is his game, this is his play style, and I don't see why he doesn't have potential here to make the All-Star game this year. So we actually might see both Ball brothers in the All-Star game in the East. I mean, especially with Ben Simmons not playing, because Ben Simmons has always been voted in as an All-Star in the guard position. That opens up at least one guard spot right there alone. So I would think that one of the Ball brothers is definitely going to fill that spot. But Lonzo definitely has the opportunity with the Bulls having the record they're having. Fans are going to vote for the Bulls players. You're going to have 3, possibly 4, but with Vucevic being hurt, most likely 3 Bulls players in my prediction, with Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, and Lonzo Ball as 3 Chicago Bulls players in this year's All-Star game. So that's going to be something to watch out for. I probably will plug that in on Twitter, just my thought after this podcast that Lonzo Ball will make his first All-Star game this year in 2022. So just to keep an eye on that. Like I said, Chicago Bulls are doing great things. What are they, number one in the East? Or if not, they should be. So they're already gelling at this stage. So from here on, it's just refining. So outside of injury, they're going to make noise here. They're going to have a chance to go to the NBA Finals. And it's going to be scary because Lonzo Ball has grown so much as a player, and his mindset of already how to play the game with his knowledge and his passing ability is already there. So it's going to be a scary thing. DeMar, he's hungry. You know, he's out of the West. He's out of LeBron's shadow finally because he was in Toronto and LeBron kept beating up the Raptors when he was in Cleveland. And then DeRozan gets traded to the West and he's playing with the Spurs. And who is in the West outside of Curry, LeBron showed back up. So now you don't have to worry about Curry. You don't have to worry about LeBron. You can kind of get over that hump with the fresh start of, you know, my past isn't here to haunt me, so to speak, theoretically. So DeRozan's going to look to make a huge rebound in his career here with the Chicago Bulls, and with Zach LaVine still growing as a player, still growing his game and entering his NBA prime. Like, this is insane. And yeah, let's not forget about Vucevic, even though he's out for the moment, that he's just, you know, always a double-double guy, just double-double threat, knows how to, you know, play the inside-out game. You know, he could shoot threes. Like, that's just one of the underrated, most dynamic big men in the game today. So, yeah, shout out to Chicago for real. And once again, yeah, shout out to Phoenix. As of the making of this video, like I said in the other episode, they are 11 games in a row win streak. That is amazing. That's just amazing. I don't know what else to say about that. I haven't watched too many of their games, but I did watch the last game of them playing Dallas Mavericks the second time. Of course, they didn't have Luka Doncic, but I mean, Phoenix are doing wonderful things there with JaVale McGee, Mikal Bridges. I really am high on that guy in general because of I like his two-way play there, his defense. So you got a lot going on there. They got Landry Shamet this year, and you know he's helping to contribute at the guard spot, as well as retaining Cameron Payne. So, you know, Chris Paul is definitely eager to get back to the finals, wants to win a championship, I'm sure, before his career ends. So he's still playing at that same level that he did last year and basically throughout his whole career. And as long as Devin Booker's getting better, that's only going to help make his job a lot easier. So, yeah, congratulations to Phoenix. Congratulations to the Tavern Geek. So far, we'll see if this is very much sustainable as far as not winning every single game, but keeping the win columns, you know, good and healthy and stacked up versus your loss. You know, we'll see if they could get up into the high 60s in the win column this year and see where they end in the regular season. So, you know, keep an eye on that. And just a quick takeaway. So this is a shorter episode. I know it got botched up from my battery dying on my camera there. But just one quick takeaway to kind of sum this up and to kind of segue into this segment leading off from the Phoenix Suns. Let's do, I don't have a Whose Man Is This for this episode, so let's do Kobe Watch, because I've mentioned this before. I mentioned this last season. Kobe Watch, the next Kobe players. Honorable mention, maybe Brandon Ingram. He's just dealing with injury and stuff, and the Pelicans organization, I don't know what's going on there, so he's not, you know, most likely going to be an all-star again this season, so like he was a couple seasons ago. So I'm going to take him out of the conversation temporarily, but he has some potential if he can get his footing back under him. But Kobe Watch, this is the debate between Tatum and Devin Booker. One's on the East, one's on the West. Who is going to be the next Kobe between these two guys as far as their intensity, the way they like to play, the way they like to, you know, put the team on their back, make the big shots at the end of the game, make clutch shots, you know, their footwork, their fadeaways. Like, these guys are on point to just score at will. We've seen Devin Booker have big performances. We've seen Jason Tatum have big performances. These guys are both still young, and they're not even in their, like, NBA prime years yet. So that is what's scary. So let's keep them on watch all season long. You know, Tatum is playing big without Jaylen Brown, and Booker's playing big since coming off the finals run last season. So let's see the Kobe watches right here. So like the LeBron watch with his shoes, we're doing a Kobe watch between these two players. Put in the comments who you think is closer to Kobe right now this season, who's definitely getting done. But we'll keep an eye out to see, when they play each other, who has the bigger matchups per se. So that'll be interesting to watch. But, I see different parts of Kobe's game with these guys, and obviously they've worked out with Kobe in the past. So they, definitely learned from the maestro himself on different techniques of footwork and how to score and how to be patient with the game. You could see as these players have gotten older and gotten more years under their belt in the NBA, how the game has slowed down for them a lot, and how they can be more patient, more defiant with their shot making and shot creation. It's awesome to see the passing down of that generation of talent to these newer guys who are embracing it and wanting to have that play style, who have looked up to Kobe and idolized him and are still putting in the work to be that great and to put themselves on that pedestal and have that pressure on them as an individual. So I love seeing that in the game. It's what makes the game great, and they're not just trying to be out there and just be that guy no matter what the team looks like as far as wins. They're wanting to make their team better and be better as an individual. So definitely great to see. So yeah, once again, I apologize for this episode being kind of chopped up like that. I hope I got everything covered where it kind of makes sense as far as what I wanted to talk about with this episode. So yeah, once again, thank you for kicking it in the second half. If you're listening to this on Spotify, anchor.fm, it's under KISH YZ, KISH space YZ. If you're watching it on YouTube, you can listen to it there, and vice versa. If you're on Spotify, anchor.fm, check us out on YouTube under KISH YZ, KISH space YZ, and then also check us out on Twitter. You can follow us there on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok if you like to, but TikTok, there's not NBA talk. That's just more of a fashion with the shoes content that we do on YouTube, along with Instagram as well, under KISH YZ at KISH_YZ, and then the Twitter under the same handle. But the Twitter, I do send out tweets more so regards to the NBA, and like I said, I'll put the Kobe watch on Twitter as well. So yeah, once again, KISH_YZ. Thank you everybody for kicking in the second half. Peace and love.